TFA fam, thank you for checking out another show. Today we have our Week 12 running back rankings and must-start plays. So we're going to jump right into it and not waste any of your time. Our consensus rankings are as follows. We have Christian McCaffrey at 1, Jonathan Taylor at 2, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, J-Rob, and A.J. Dillon as our top 12 for our RB2s for Week 12. Darrell Henderson kicks things off for us there at 13, followed by David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Leonard Fournette, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell, Mark Ingram, Damien Harris, Javonte Williams, Devonta Freeman, and Ramaadree Stevenson as our RB24. So, Kev, in the RB2 range, who are some people you think that the listeners have to be plugging into their lineups for Week 12?
First off, I just want to say Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope everybody has a great week that lives in the United States anyways, because, it's not a worldwide, and we're worldwide. And so, people in the United States, have a happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope everybody enjoys the football on Thursday, which is always tough because you got a lot of decisions to make. We typically like playing Thursday night games, and now you got 3 of them, so some of you don't have a choice. Which leads me right into who I'm going to talk about. That is David Montgomery against the Detroit Lions. Over on the season, he has a 73% opportunity share. He's averaging about 16 carries per game. He also ranks 23rd in yards after contact per attempt. However, he's extremely limited pass catcher. Only 3 targets over the last 2 weeks since he's come back from injury, handling 8, but he has handled 85% of the touches out of the backfield. 27 carries to just 5 for Khalil Herbert over the last 2 weeks. However, he's just been incredibly inefficient, mostly as a runner. However, this is a great matchup for him. The Lions have allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to the position, allowed the 4th most rushing yards, 3rd most touchdowns. They rank 29th in rush DVOA and 23rd in adjusted line yards on the season. So excellent matchup for David Montgomery to kind of really bounce back. He hasn't really been great over the first 2 weeks that he's been back. That was against the Steelers and against the Ravens, 2 formidable run defenses. So this week he gets an absolute peach of a matchup against Detroit. So you're starting David Montgomery with confidence. I know that he hasn't been great, but this is one of the best spots he's going to get all year. So start David Montgomery, especially with the insane workload that he has. Moving on, I'm going to go with Miles Sanders as my number 2 guy. He saw 16 carries in his first game back for 94 yards against one of the league's best run defenses. However, some people will look at it and say, well, he only played 46% of the snaps compared to 37% of Boston Scott and 17% for Howard. However, he did lose a fumble, and they sat him for a little while, which caused them, I think some of that to lose some carries. But overall, he was really efficient in that game. He had a couple opportunities. He possibly could have scored a touchdown if Jalen Hurts wasn't so damn greedy and didn't keep the ball. But regardless, I think Miles Sanders is in a great spot, bounce back spot here, going against a great matchup against the Giants. The Giants allowed the 7th most fantasy points to running backs, ranked 31st at adjusted line yards, 29th in second level, and 16th in open field yards. And really, Jalen Hurts really just kind of opens up this running game because with that RPO, Miles Sanders, I think he takes over more of this. He's going to play more snaps, just 46%. He was coming back from injury, and like I said, that fumble I think hurt some of his opportunities that he saw. However, he still saw 16 carries in that game. So I really like Miles Sanders a lot in this matchup against the Giants. I think he's another guy you can play with confidence. And then you got Antonio Gibson going against Seattle. On the season, he has 52% of the snaps, 59.4% of the opportunities. He's averaged about 15 carries per game, only 2.6 targets per game. 28 red zone touches, 506 rushing yards, and he has 29th in yards after contact per touch. He has 506 rushing yards, 158 receiving yards, 6 total touchdowns, and 13 fantasy points per game. He did lose a fumble in this game as well, and he missed some time as well. That's when they put in Patterson, but I still feel confident. This is Antonio Gibson's backfield. The week before, he saw 24 carries in that game. So I do like Antonio Gibson against a matchup against Seattle, who ranks 16th in adjusted line yards, 23rd in second level rank, and allow the 3rd most fantasy points on the season to running backs, 10th most rushing yards, and the 9th most rushing touchdowns. So I like Antonio Gibson a lot against Seattle. Those are the 3 running backs that I want to hit on: David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, and Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, like all those guys as well. I just have a couple I want to tack on here before we get out of here. One, Elijah Mitchell. It was supposed to be Jeff Wilson week last week. We were kind of pumping the brakes slightly just because, the matchup against the Jaguars wasn't as good as we might have thought it was with how bad the Jags have been. But he did nothing to really threaten Elijah Mitchell's status as the lead back in that backfield. Wilson only put up 58 total yards on 20 touches. So assuming that Mitchell is good to go this week, he's right back in that RB2 status going up against the Vikings, who have allowed the 11th most half PPR points to running backs. And going into week 11, Minnesota was ranked 28th in rush DVOA, and they were dead last in Football Outsiders adjusted line yards. Elijah Mitchell, one of the reasons why we like him is his opportunity. 6 in opportunity share. He is 9th in breakaway runs on the season with 6. And that's with him missing, 3 games already through the early part of the season, including their bye. So Elijah Mitchell is someone who you can absolutely feel comfortable plugging in, again, assuming he's going to be back. And I think he would, considering he was up in the air, his status to play last week. I do think we see him come back this week. And then the last 2 I'm going to throw out here, Ramaadree Stevenson and Damien Harris. So looking at the game last week against Atlanta, that workload was split basically down the middle. Harris saw 25 snaps. Stevenson saw 22. Stevenson did edge out Harris in carries with 12 to 10. They both saw 1 target, and Harris had 8 routes run versus Stevenson's 5. Now, I'm not sure that we can, just extrapolate this throughout the rest of the season, but I do think in this upcoming matchup with Tennessee, we probably can, because I'm going to expect them to just absolutely control this game. They're obviously already without Derrick Henry. Julio Jones is on IR. Now they might be without A.J. Brown as well. So I think we could see maybe not the straight-up domination that we saw against the Falcons, but a similar game script where it's just going to be a lot of Ramaadree and a lot of Damien Harris. So I think you can feel comfortable plugging both those guys in as back-end RB2s. There's not going to be much of a ceiling here unless one of these guys scores. That's what held them back last week. I think they were both, in that mid to back RB2 range in their fantasy finishes. So those are the 3 guys, I guess, that I wanted to talk about this week. We're going to get out of here on that note. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you liked the video and the podcast. If you did, hit us with a sub, hit us with a like, leave us a rate and review on the podcast, and make sure that you're checking out the rest of the content coming out this week here at the Fantasy Authority.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.